So recently I had a thought. What if I gave random Pokemon random Mega Evolutions? I thought that sounded super fun and interesting, so that's what we're going to be doing in this video. Now, while this does sound like a good time, I did want to lay down a few ground rules as well to make sure we still ended up with some cool designs and not some randomized abominations. So real quick before we get into it, here's how this is going to work. The Pokemon are randomly generated, but the catch is that to make them Mega all the more interesting and all the more random, each one is going to gain a type upon Mega Evolving, and that type will be random as well. Second, in order to end up with some cool results, I did a bunch of random generations and then picked the ones that I thought were the coolest for this video. So that way, I still have some good content to show you and not a bug type Mega Wigglytuff or something like that. Anyways though, let's go ahead and kick things off with Mamoswine. Mamoswine is a pretty cool Pokemon, and the Mega that I ended up generating for it is an Ice Dragon type, and this is what it looks like. Now, if that sounds like a crazy combination, that's because it is, but I am of the belief that adding the Dragon type onto just about anything can result in a really cool design, and I believe that is what's happening here. Additionally, when the Dragon type was first generated for Mamoswine while putting this together, I instantly kind of got this vibe of like primal Ice Age energy, and that just sounded like a neat concept and combination, so I wanted to bring it to life. In this Mega Evolution, as you can see, Mamoswine's tusks grow larger, its body becomes lower to the ground, and just a bit more draconic in general, and it also gains these spikes, which act as both sharp pieces of ice, and also your classic spikes that are quintessential of many dragon types. Stat-wise, Mamoswine would end up with a base stat total of 630 upon Mega Evolving, so overall it'd be in pretty solid shape, and for its boost, I would distribute it in a number of different areas. I'd bump its attack up to a nice clean 150, and then, because it already has the ice and is also gaining the dragon type as well, I would bump its special attack up by 50 to 120. I would also top off its speed by 20 to get it to the 100-point mark, and then give the remaining 10 points to its lowest stat, its special defense. Overall, this might be a random design, and I don't exactly see Mamoswine gaining the Dragon type anytime soon, but even still, I think it does a pretty solid job of pulling it off. Just because these designs are randomly generated though, doesn't mean they couldn't ever happen for real. Some of these I think would make for great candidates for actual Mega Evolutions, and this next Pokemon, Centiskorch, is a great example of that. Upon the random generation, Centiskorch ended up with the Fire Dark type for its Mega, and that combination is an unbelievably cool one, so I knew I had to create a design for it. So without further ado, this is what a Fire Dark Mega Centiskorch could look like. Now, I personally feel like the design makes a pretty good pitch as to why this could be real, but when thinking about it too, it also makes a lot of sense. Like I said, Fire Dark is just a really cool type combination. Dark is definitely a type that could feasibly be applied to Centiskorch, and even though it did have to drop its bug type to pick it up, I figure for a temporary change like a Mega, that is a reasonable thing to be able to do. Plus, since fire is literally already coming out of its body, I felt like I did have to keep the fire type here of those two. The other major thing this design does, as you may have noticed, is that it floats, and while this is just a cool thing for it to do as a Mega, it actually plays a bit into its dark typing when you think about it. Real-life centipedes, when on the ground, are already creepy enough as is, so you take a flaming centipede and give it the ability to float, and it basically becomes a spawn of hell. So that's kind of the angle that was taken with the dark type here, and I feel like this design pulls that idea off pretty well. Stat-wise, Centiskorch is a fairly balanced Pokemon already, but it does have its weak points, so with its boost, I would want to take care of those weak points and give 35 each to its defense and speed to raise them both up to 100. From there, I would give the remaining 30 points to its special attack to put that at 120, and to help it take more advantage of its typings as well. It's honestly hard to say at this point, even with Mega Evolution coming back, how many post-Gen 6 Pokemon we can really expect to see get Megas in the future. But regardless of the circumstance and regardless of what happens, I think Centiskorch would be a great candidate for a Mega Evolution. Another one in the category of this could actually happen is Umbreon. Now, while I will say with that in mind that there are still some hiccups with any of the evolutions getting a form like this, because it's a case of if you give it to one, you gotta give it to them all, and that's just not very likely to happen, this specific Mega design, despite its randomness, is something I could genuinely see Umbreon actually getting if it were to get a Mega. It is a dark fairy type, and I knew I had to give a design to this one because it just had this beautiful, mystical vibe to it that sounded amazing to me, and I feel like we were able to pull that off in the design. I especially love the blend of color that this design features because it has this ethereal, mystical, almost angelic kind of vibe that, when coupled with the rest of its design, really works great for both the typing and the Pokemon. In terms of stats, it's kind of an interesting scenario because Umbreon's stats are weighted way more towards its defenses, and while we could continue to make it even more of a defensive Pokemon, I just feel like it would be even cooler if you could actually attack with Umbreon too. So I think I would raise Umbreon's speed and special attack up to 100 while giving its attack the remaining 25 points, raising it up to 90. This would make Umbreon a more all-around Pokemon, but it would essentially just allow you to actually attack with it without compromising its defenses. And I think that would just give Umbreon even more appeal, not that it needs any, but it is something that I think would be really cool to see. As we continue, a big shout out as always goes to my guy Rgreywind for drawing the artwork of these designs, and as always you can check him out with the links in the description. Our next Mega is a bit more on the more random side once again, and this time it has to do with Poliwrath. For Poliwrath, it ended up being paired with the Water Ghost type, which, realistically speaking, is something I don't think would happen for Poliwrath in an actual Mega, and I certainly don't think it would lose its fighting type in the process, but if you know me, you know I have an affinity for giving Pokemon the Ghost type, so this is one that I decided to actually make a design for, and this is what it looks like. Now, the thing that really makes this design is something that Rgreywind actually implemented, so all credit goes to him on this, but it's the idea that Poliwrath's iconic stomach pattern now sort of doubles as this ghostly black hole vortex type of thing since it's a ghost type now, and its mouth kind of just opens up into that, which I feel like is a pretty clever way to use this Pokemon's design that it already has to show off what overall is a pretty random typing for it. Now, for its stats, to this point, I have been giving these Pokemon a pretty even stat distribution. So for this one, I think I would like to do something a little bit more extreme. So with its stat boost, I would double Poliwrath's special attack stat to make it a whopping 140, which would actually help out a lot with its new ghost typing, and then from there I would put the remaining 30 into Poliwrath's speed to give it an even 100, because 100 is like a magic number, especially for the speed stat, so I feel like it would be good for it to be able to take advantage of that. As I have said before, who knows what kind of Megas we'll actually get in the future, but Poliwrath is one of the few Kanto Pokemon that doesn't have a special form like this to this point, so something is probably bound to happen for it in the near future. Next up, we have got Rillaboom, and this one to me felt especially intriguing. It's got the fact that it's a starter Pokemon going for it, but personally, it's not a starter that I really like that much. On top of that, when I generated a type for it, it ended up being Grass Ice, which is definitely on the more random, weird side of things for Rillaboom. It ended up being exactly what this Pokemon needed in my opinion though, because this is how the Mega ended up turning out. And for me, it takes Rillaboom from kind of a whatever Pokemon to one that I can really get behind. It just adds a flair and a cool factor to it that is lacking in the normal Rillaboom in my opinion. And the Ice type somehow works so well despite it not necessarily being a great fit for the Pokemon. As you can see, its whole body kind of gains this chilled look to it, while icy spikes also shoot up from its arms and shoulders. And hey, if there's one thing about Megas, it's that they like their spikes, so this guy would fit right in with the rest of the Mega crowd. For stats, even though Rillaboom has a good base stat total, a lot of its individual stats actually aren't that high, so I would want to shore it up across the board by adding 15 to its speed to make it an even 100, 40 to its special attack to make that 100 as well, and also allowing it to utilize its new Ice type more effectively. Then I would also add 25 to its attack to make that a crazy 150, and then give the remaining 20 points to its special defense to make that 90. That would definitely help to balance it out a little bit more in the stats department, and in the design department, this, in my opinion, takes Rillaboom from a design that's kind of boring overall to one that I would definitely use on my team, and it honestly might even be my favorite of the video. You will have to let me know your favorite of these Megas in the comments below though. I really want to hear it, so be sure to let me know. And if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like as well, as it does help out a lot. I will also be back with another new video very soon as well, so stay tuned for that. And until then, as always, thanks so much for watching this one. I really appreciate it, and I will smell you guys later.